Back to the election now, as new polls show Hillary Clinton's lead among Democrats is slipping a bit out there, and now Hillary Clinton's daughter Chelsea has entered the political fray, blasting Bernie Sanders about his stance on Obamacare. Here she is.
I never thought that we would be arguing about the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare in the Democratic primary. Senator Sanders wants to dismantle Obamacare, dismantle the CHIP program, dismantle Medicare, dismantle private insurance.
So the most recent New York Times CBS News poll shows Clinton still leading nationally at 48%, but many say, will that change if Sanders is able to win, perhaps in Iowa and New Hampshire? That could be a real game changer. So let's bring in Karl Rove, former Deputy White House Chief of Staff to President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. Karl, good morning. Good to see you today.
Morning.
So
good to see you.
This is interesting. And they've got Chelsea Clinton out there now because they're getting nervous about what's going on in Iowa. The Quinnipiac poll in Iowa shows Bernie Sanders at 49%, Hillary Clinton at 44%. What do you make of this, Karl?
Well, you started off with a CBS New York Times poll, and you're right. Hillary Clinton leads by 7% in that poll nationwide, but that is down from 20-point lead in that same poll a month ago. And you talk about Iowa, you're right. New poll out, there have been 4 polls in Iowa in 2016. Bernie Sanders leads in 2 by 5 and 3. Hillary Clinton leads in 2 by 6 and 3. It gives her a 0.2% lead in the Real Clear Politics average in that state. And last month, her lead in the Real Clear Politics average was generally between 11 and 12 points in Iowa. Now, Iowa is a more liberal state because they have 585,000 Democrats. But in 2008, the largest turnout they've ever had in a caucus, 40% of Democrats turned out, just under 40% turned out to vote. It's more likely to be like a third of the Democrats, and as a result, in caucuses for either party, the more ardent members of your party who tend to be on towards the edges of your party turn out. So we're going to have it may be a Midwestern state, but it's going to be a very liberal turnout, and that will benefit Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders, well, we'll see. Let's take a look at the youth vote, because that's why you've got Chelsea Clinton out there on the campaign trail now, because they're very concerned about this number. I mean, who would have thought that a 74-year-old man from Brooklyn, who's represents as a socialist senator from Vermont, would get 60% of those under age 45? So much for putting younger, fresher candidates out there, because this man has garnered the attention of all of these young people, Karl.
Well, yeah, he may be old, but he is new and different. And the one thing that you can't say about Hillary Clinton is that she's new and fresh. I mean, we've seen her around for 40-some-odd years, 30-some-odd years on the stage. She is well-known, well-defined, and he is fresh and new. And we've seen this happen before. Eugene McCarthy in 1968 was not a youthful candidate, and yet he won the youth vote in the Democratic primary. And same with George McGovern in 1972, older candidate, but propelled by younger voters. And the problem for Hillary is that she's well-known, she's overly familiar, and along comes the sort of unkempt, wild-haired Bernie Sanders, self-described Democratic socialist from Vermont, and they like him.
He's like their college professors. They recognize him. They like him. Yes, 60% for Sanders, 31% for Clinton. And you would think that there would be a lot of young women in that group also that would like to see a woman as president, but that doesn't seem to be what they're gravitating to in this race. Now, all of this, of course, has people like Joe Biden sitting up and paying attention and saying things like, I regret every day that I didn't get into this race. So just, let's look into the crystal ball here for a moment. If Bernie Sanders were to win Iowa and New Hampshire, does the game change? Does somebody else get in?
Well, it could, but here's the problem. These states are atypical. Vermont is right next door to New Hampshire, so that's like home territory. We then turn south about 10 days later, and we go to South Carolina, where the electorate is significantly more African-American and where voters tend to be a little bit more moderate in the South. And then we go to Nevada, and then we have a whole slew of states, many of them in the interior and upper South. And my sense is that there are not enough you know, Keene, New Hampshire's and Johnson County, Iowa's. That is to say, liberal strongholds, very liberal strongholds for him to continue this. But look, I think she's going to have a bigger contest than we might have thought a year ago. She's turned out to be a dreadful candidate. He's got a little bit of lightning in the bottle, and at the end of the day, though, I think she will grind him down in the South and in the Midwest. And in addition, remember, the Democrats, despite their name as the Democratic Party, have a very undemocratic element in their convention called the superdelegates. People who sort of are, they consider them the House of Lords of the Democratic Party. They get their peerage, and those people are not going to be inclined to go for a Democratic Socialist, and they're going to be a big chunk of votes that, in my sense, puts Hillary Clinton comfortably across the finish line. But she's going to have more of a contest in the earlier going, and some of the things that are showing up now, the weakness among young people, and another weakness in New Hampshire, her problem is women. Thus far this year, there have been, I think, 5 polls in New Hampshire, and she has lost 4 of the 5 to Bernie Sanders, who has, in the Real Clear Politics average, a lead of about 6 points. And a lot of that is the defection of women moving away from Hillary Clinton into Bernie Sanders' camp.
Fascinating. Carl, you never bring any data along. That's the problem with your interviews, you know?
I'm sorry, just uninformed opinion.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. We'll see you soon.
Great to see you, Martha.
Thank you.
No. 6, there's 4 polls here, 5 polls there.
You knew that, right, McCallum? Of course I did.